I have an important message for a select few. That's not all of you. This is for a select few of you guys that are listening or watching this. It's for trade business owners that have been around for a while. They understand the frustrations of marketing and being in control or not being in control. Guys, it's 2021 and many of you are marketing yourselves like it's the year 2000. Off the back of a global pandemic, we've seen huge shifts in the market with people turning to service providers they know, like, and trust. There's never been a better time to establish the tools and frameworks in your business to take advantage of these things. These things that will serve you not only now, but serve the business ongoing. Over at Tradie Web Guys, we've recently launched the Elevation program. It equips businesses with the tools and the programs required to successfully market themselves. It gives you tools to re-engage with your past and present clients whilst nurturing potential clients. It creates assets in your company's name with no proprietary licenses. You own these things 100%. It gives your business a huge head start on the search engines with advanced SEO, and it collates all of the programs and all the services you need into one neat little bundle, including things like web development, website management, email marketing, SEO, Google Ads, loads of different softwares, strategy, support, and a bunch of other things. After going through this program, you'll have all the tools you need to market your business ongoing. You'll have a huge head start in your marketing, and you'll also have a CRM so you can continue to build your database whilst engaging your current customers and re-engaging those customers that you've essentially forgotten about. Marketing tools that you need, and they'll all be in your control. You don't owe anyone anything. You'll be able to dial it up and down essentially as you see fit. So why is this an important time to talk about this? Guys, it's important to know a lot about a little and a little about a lot. Meaning, you want to be in control. You want to know enough to be dangerous. I'm not trying to give you more work here. Essentially, we'll set everything up for you, teach you the basics, and then it's all yours. It's complete transparency. You'll never grow a business past a certain point without marketing. Word of mouth will only ever get you so far. We've spoken about it on the podcast a load of times. At some stage, you need to invest in these things. This is the simplest and most affordable way to do it. For more information, head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/elevation, fill in the form, and let's make 2021 the year that you took control. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations, and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form, and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Stephen and Erica, welcome to the Site Shed podcast.
Thank you.
All the way from snowy Utah and sunny Texas.
That's
Absolutely. Right. We are very happy to be here, man. Great to be on the show, Matt.
It's good to have you. And I know it's getting late over there, so thanks for setting the time aside at this time of night. I know you could probably be doing other things.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. We're glad that you're having us, and we would do anything for podcasts, and you have a great podcast. So,
So you guys are from Power Selling Pros. Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown on what you guys do and how why we're in contact, and then we'll dive a little bit into this, what we're going to be talking about after that.
Absolutely. So Power Selling Pros, we are a coaching accountability organization. So we actually do training and coaching exclusively in the home services industries. So heating and air, electrical, plumbing, and then a few outliers as well. But really our main goal is to help companies grow. And by doing that, they win more moments, they wow more customers, and really ultimately they make more money. So it's not only just about creating the wow experience for the customer, but what we've discovered and we'll talk about today is really if you take care of the employee and you get the engaged employee, that employee experience will, leak over and influence what the customer experience is. Mm-hmm. So, but Power Selling Pros, we've been around for 11 years. It was started by Brigham Dickinson. And
I know Brigham. I've actually presented with him from stage.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Brigham is great. We love Brigham. He's our boss. Of course we love him. What else am I going to say? Are you kidding?
Yeah, I actually met him at a service roundtable event in Sydney.
Yep.
Yeah,
he was there.
Going back a number.
Yeah, it was years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Definitely has changed over the years. So we have about 45 coaches that work with us. And so we actually do training, and then we do. What's really unique with us, Matt, is, of course, training is great, but we do ongoing accountability coaching. So it really starts to help shift the mindset, and that really affects the behavior. And that's where you start to see the real change take place over time.
Yeah. Oh, look, you're certainly preaching to the choir here, because we've put a lot of emphasis in our episodes over the years into accountability and, the difference between a dream and a goal being a strategy and all this kind of stuff. And, even myself, over the years, since having accountability partners in place, things move a lot quicker. That's for sure. So
absolutely.
I dare say this will be extremely well received. And now you guys obviously in different locations. Is that because of the recent events, or has that always been the case?
I try to stay as far away as possible to Erica. So that's why I'm in Texas. She's in Utah. Yeah. I kid. She's awesome. But Matt, we actually have an autonomous company, and we don't have a brick and mortar building.
Yeah, love it.
So we literally have coaches in Denver and Florida, Oregon, California. But I would definitely say the majority of them are there in the beautiful state of Utah.
Wow. Okay. So we're here today. You touched on it, Stephen, just earlier, but this series that we've created today is the first episode of the Creating an Amazing Employee Experience. Now, we've done the whole customer experience thing in the past, and it was very well received. And I think in light of current global economic situations off the back of the pandemic, I'm not quite sure what your experience is, but I know there's a lot of guys out there that are sort of got their ears pricked up to the whole conversation around staff retention and, creating a good employee experience. I'm so used to saying it. I don't even, it's just by default. And I think now more than ever, there's sort of a situation where there seems to be a bit of talent around, because for one reason or another, people have been let go from their jobs. And, especially out here anyway, I know over the years, there's been this, this constant scream for, no staff. And now there seems to be people around. So making yourself more appealing in that situation is paying dividends, Even just now, I've literally, just before this podcast started, I've had 2 job applications come in from ads that we're running, and I just question whether or not, I don't recall having these sort of applicants coming in, before. So it's kind of working in the favor of the business owner to a degree, I think. Again, you got to make sure that you stand out against the rest. So we've got our first episode, which we're talking about why your employee experience probably sucks. And I think that would relate to most listeners, viewers. Second episode, we're talking about what's your purpose. And in the third episode, we're talking about what the successful companies do to retain their employees. I threw that over to you guys to come up with those topics, and you've come up with them for a reason. What is that reason?
What we've seen with the employee experience for sure is not just creating an employee experience where you have everyone coming into the office, because that's not normal anymore. You got coming in the office, and then you get sent home again. So now you got to figure out how to work from home. And then now you got to come back into the office, and now you got to have an employee experience at home. And how do you take care of your people right now? It's always been important, but you definitely have to juggle all of these different dynamics. And one of the things that we have really seen is that your culture, either by default or by design, and it's really setting your employees up for success. And even though, contractors, we're not the Disneylands, we're not the Amazons and the Googles and the T-Mobiles or whatever. We're not huge corporations where you hear of all these things where people get 1 year off when they have their first kid from work paid. Like we can't do that kind of stuff, but we still have to nurture and take care of the people that we have and find ways that we can help them grow and be successful, regardless of the size of our company.
Mm-hmm.
And
because really, Erica, your greatest asset at your company is your people, right? Whether they're answering the phone, which is the voice of the company, or whether they're out in the field, which is now the face of the company, hidden behind the mask. And so when you see the greatest asset is your people, companies that are focusing so much on just taking care of the customers sometimes neglect taking care of their actual employees, their people. And that's why I said early on, Matt, which is the customer experience, although it's extremely important. I think it was Richard Branson that said, if you take care of your employees, they in turn will take care of your customers. And that's a really interesting principle that Richard Branson, Virgin Air, and all sorts of companies has really lived by. And if you know anything about Richard Branson and what he's done over the years, he's extremely successful, but he's obsessive about taking care of their employees. Another great example is Reed Hastings with Netflix. Netflix doesn't even have time cards, PTO, vacation. They basically say, here's your job description, get it done, however long it takes. If you need some time off, take it. And they've been doing this for years. And it's against the model of a business because you're like, well, won't people take advantage of you? Possibly, you know. But it goes back. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a funny landscape. We had a comment in our community only last week from a fellow, pretty sure he's in the US actually, but he was saying he's got a lot of issues at the moment with his team members leaving, not staying to when they're supposed to be staying. And I commented back saying, just out of curiosity, are you not letting them leave? Do you want them on site these certain times because they've got to fulfill a specific duty at a certain time, or is it because it's just an expectation that's always been in place? And he sort of said, well, it's always just been an expectation that's been in place. And I mean, I sort of have a similar, I suppose, business setup to you guys. Like my whole team's remote. We're all over the world, we're all over the country, and there is a lot of rope given, you know. I suppose the ongoing battle there is some of the things I'd like to get into is, you know, some of the things around accountability and project management and, you know, some of the tools you use and expectations, managing expectations, and then, you know, deliverables and all this kind of stuff. Because I think if people had a clear understanding of how they could set their business up in that way, they'd probably be far more inclined and happy to do it, especially based on the fact that they don't need necessarily to have people sitting in an office that they don't need to be paying for. So, I mean, there's a lot of serendipities there, but I think there's a lot of apprehension when in the lead up to, you know.
You know, I use this phrase, reward the behavior you want. And really that has to do with setting up the expectations, holding them accountable, giving them the tools of the trade and giving them the training they need so that they can, you know, take care of those expectations you have. But a lot of times those are not even communicated. They just say, answer the phone, get out there and sell that candy, whatever it is, right? Without clear expectations. And so if they fail, whose fault is it? Is it theirs? Or is it perhaps the leadership team that didn't give them a clear direction? I just see, and Erica's really kind of an expert on this. She does a great job on talking about hiring. And one thing, and I won't steal your thunder, Erica, but she talks about so many ads out there that basically say, what can you do for us?
Right.
And when you look at the supply and demand of some amazing mechanics out there, technicians, they're basically asking, well, what's in it for me? And so there's this paradigm shift of they know they're in high demand.
Yeah.
And one of the big things too is this whole idea of common sense, right? Why can't you just have common sense? And we've probably all heard before that common sense isn't so common anymore. And we're dealing with so many different generations that we work with now. And you have the whole what's in it for me kind of employees. You have the people who, well, you should just know how to do it. How hard can it be? You come to work, you get here on time, you do your job, you go home, you get paid. And that's probably worked before, probably before my time, but sure, it worked. And I just said, you know, I'm a millennial basically. But you can't expect people to just have your common sense. We're not mind readers. And so clearly setting up those expectations beforehand, it's kind of what Stephen is saying with this is like, for example, when I was little and my mom told me to go clean my room. Well, guess what I did when I went to clean my room? Well, everything went under the bed, everything went in the closet, and it was just like, look, nothing's on the floor, Mom. She had to learn as well of, oh, I can't just tell her what to do. I have to show her what to do. And so she would literally come and teach me and put her hands on top of my hands and show me how to do everything, that she could trust me to do it. She knew that I knew when she said, go clean your room, I knew what that meant. And so it's the same thing with owners. We think that, oh, I shouldn't have to baby this person. Why do I have to hold their hand through it? But if they're not doing it the way you want them to do it, it's probably your fault because you have to have not just the tell, you have to have the show and tell, and then they have to like teach you basically. And it's seems like we shouldn't have to do that because that's a parent's job. But if you want your employees to be successful, we almost have to go to that extreme. And it might seem extreme, but it's very effective.
I think leadership is the ongoing bottleneck in a lot of conversations relating to business areas that are not performing. And, I'm sure as business coaches, that's a huge focus that you guys, a few obstacles that perhaps you guys have to face and approach people with. And, very often they don't want to hear it, especially if they've been, running their business for a certain way, a certain time, and all of a sudden you turn around and say your leadership sucks. But it's quite often the reality, isn't it? And when you say, why your employee experience probably sucks, it's in most cases the fish rots from the head down. That sort of style and that sort of tone and that sort of management is kind of systemic to a degree where it gets passed down, and the rotting apple could be right at the top. And it's one of the things I suppose a lot of people out there might. And to be honest, I'm probably in a similar boat myself. Like I don't think I'm really suited for that position in my own business. Ideally, I'd love to have like a general manager in there or someone that's better at with those sort of conversations where I'm sort of too hot-headed and I just, lose my cool too much too often over things. We put a huge emphasis in the business on training, project management and all these kind of things. But then, the ongoing battle is, of course, for making sure that people are using it and making sure that people are checking in and ticking tasks off and doing all that kind of stuff. So, where the traditional model, a lot of the listeners and viewers out there would certainly have its own problems, like guys rocking up to site on time, taking too long on lunch breaks, so on and so forth. And there's a whole different bundle of problems that comes with what we're talking about, which is essentially equipping people with freedom, but also making sure that they've got the right tools to remain accountable and get stuff done while you're not standing over them.
Absolutely. We know that nobody likes to be micromanaged, right? And so I like to think of it as when you're having, as you said, those difficult conversations, that hopefully you could get somebody that could have those conversations, because there's different kinds of leaders, right? We need the leaders who can inspire and motivate and pump people up. And then you're going to have the leaders who need to have the accountability and the practical aspects of things and following up with everything. And so, I just think it's important to read a lot of leadership books. I love them because everybody needs a different leadership style and people are led differently. But instead of managing people, I like to think of it as managing the energy of your company, of your employees. Even just if you're having a one-on-one, just instead of pointing the finger and giving somebody feedback, and we all know the worst way to give feedback, if you don't know, sometimes, right, is a positive, negative, positive. People are like, hey, Matt, you're super great. We love having you. By the way, you lost us 10 grand. It was really bad, but don't worry, you're absolutely awesome. The whole idea of the sandwich method of here's how we give you feedback. Like, do you believe any of the compliments you get when that happens? And nobody ever does. And so it's really down to how do I not micromanage that person, but manage the energy of that conversation and ask good questions and not point fingers and blame, but really be open and flexible to working with people, because you're going to have people that expect different things now because the world is different.
So I suppose we could go on down a huge rabbit hole when we're talking about leadership, but essentially in this episode, we really want to talk about things that suck within employee experience. So things that potentially stand out to you guys as common issues that you see businesses constantly tripping up on, and then perhaps some of the things that businesses, that listeners and viewers and business owners out there can maybe take on board as a way to, move forward proactively and progressively.
Well, take for example, Matt, I do a lot of technician training, so I work with a lot of technicians out in the field. And one thing that I hear that they are always crying to me about is they really feel like they don't have any direction. Like they have no goals, no direction. They're just doing every day, shampoo, rinse, repeat every single day. And so one thing that I've discovered is I ask owners, well, when was the last time you asked them what they want? And what I mean by that is if I were to ask you, what does success look like to you? Because what success looks like to you is a little bit different from Erica and from me. So I was with a company in North Carolina the other day, and we started asking the technicians, what do you want? Is it time? Is it money? Is it fulfillment? And when I said, what does success look like to you? There was this young kid in there, technician. He goes, living on a jet ski every weekend. I said, oh my, tell me more. And he goes, dude, have you ever seen a sad person on a jet ski? I'm like, well, no, I have not. And he goes, that's me. He goes, every weekend, I want to be on a jet ski. I said, dude, that would be cool. And he's like, it would be great. I said, so do you own a jet ski? And all of a sudden, when I asked that, you could see like he just deflated. He was like, well, no, that's a lot of money. And I said, well, what if we could find a way that you could achieve the goals you want and you could actually get a jet ski within a year's time? What would that look like? Now, all of a sudden, he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, let's take a look at your performance-based pay, your commission, your incentives. And we put a plan together. And in this case, Matt, he got a particular incentive based off of selling a particular IAQ product, right?
What's that mean?
Oh, indoor air quality product. Yeah. So, a UV light, air scrubber, Remy Halo, iWave, all sorts of indoor air quality products. And so he gets a spiff off it. And we determine how many calls he runs a week. He averages 20 to 25 calls that he's in a house. We did the math. I looked up what it cost for the jet ski he wanted. And we determined it was like $8,900 US dollars. And again, he's like, oh, I just don't have that. I said, well, hang on. Let me help you here. So we determined which one he wanted, what it was going to cost. And then at the end, I figured if he only sold 1.2 of these per week, he could have a jet ski at the end of the year, right? In a year's time. Now he has a goal. Now he's excited. Plus, he knows the value of an indoor air quality product. And so I just got an email a couple weeks ago from the service manager, and he said, hey, I just got to let you know, man, this guy is now on target to get a jet ski like in April or May. and so he has cut it from 12 months to 6 months because now he has a direction. And what it took was for me to say, what does success look like to you? Now, there were some other people that said, well, it would be great if I had a 529 savings investment to send my kids to college. There was another guy who said, you know what? I would love to have a 5-acre farm. And I was like, well, tell me more about the farm. He's like, well, I want to get a farm so I can take dogs that are being taken to the shelter to be euthanized. I'm going to go pick them up, take them to my farm, and let them live their life, their last days on my farm, living La Vida Loco, right? Just going crazy. And so if you don't ask what they want, how can you deliver that? And so when I was a general manager at a heated and air company, we would pay spiffs when guys would get reviews and stuff. And I would pay a $5 Subway. It's like a sub sandwich. And they'd get like 3 reviews. And I'd be like, hey, here's $5 each, right? Eat fresh. And they're like, yeah, not so fresh. And because what I thought they wanted, like I figured they wanted this or they wanted that. The moment I started to actually ask them, what do you want in life? How can I help you achieve that? And if I can put a plan in place, Matt, so that they can start to achieve that and see some wins, right? Do you think that their loyalty, do you think they'll ever leave me? Chances are they won't. Yeah. Because if I can help them become successful of what they want and I give them a plan, now I can actually hold them accountable. Because I can say, well, Matt, you said you wanted a jet ski. You were going to sell 1.2. You only sold a half of one this week. What can I do to help you? Do we need to role play? Do we need to practice? Do we need to talk about the product? How can I help you? So now I'm holding them accountable. They have a clear direction. They have goals. And I do this on an annual basis, but I also meet with them on a monthly basis.
You know,
sorry, go ahead, Erica.
Part of the best part of that story is that not only was it this jet ski technician and then his leader, it was the whole team of technicians got so excited for him. That now everybody was like, every time they saw him, they're like, hey, you're going to take me on that jet ski, right? Or, hey, can we be best friends? And like everybody started motivating him. And that's the employee experience. You have everybody now aligned with helping each other. And it wasn't anything necessary that you did to motivate them. It was the guy with the jet skis. He was so excited about it that now everyone else was on board and trying to help him. Yeah. And that was a huge part of the story to me.
So that conversation would have happened one-on-one with that person initially, but then how that become have a cultural effect? Like how did the rest of the team find out about it? And how did you, how come everyone's now cheering this guy on about a conversation that would have probably happened in private? That
actually took place in a large training room with about 40 different techs. And I was challenging them to think about long-term goals, not the short game.
Right.
And so we took a little bit of time. It wasn't just, hey, what do you want? And you told me immediately. it was to really think, what does success look like to you? Is it money? Is it time? Is it fulfillment? Right? And then they started to drill down. And then I said, would anyone be willing to share? And that young kid, because he didn't know any better, he's the first one that shared.
Yeah.
Now, one-on-ones that I do, I actually do those private because we're talking about money. We're talking about their finances. We're talking about their KPIs, key performance indicators, what they're hitting, what they're not. But for us, it was in a group, and I just was explaining what does success look like. Because really, this is a young man's game, meaning how long can you do this until your knees or your back give out? And so what I have found is technicians, they'll work 1 week and they make this amount of money. And guess what? They spend this amount of money. Next week, they make this much. Well, guess what? They spend this much. And so a lot of guys don't even have any savings whatsoever. Erica and I worked with this awesome company out of Missouri, and they actually created for their office someone that was called the Chief Employee Experience Officer. The Chief Employee Experience Officer. Her only job, Matt, was to meet with every employee, from a CSR to a warehouse guy to a technician to the accountant, and ask, what is it you want in life? What does success look like to you? And if I can help you achieve that, dude, Erica, am I right? No one leaves this company ever.
They have a waiting list of people.
And they have a stack of applications of people begging to work there. They have hired coaches. They had a guy, Matt, who was an excellent tech. He was very overweight. And he was very embarrassed. And so he couldn't make eye contact with customers. So I later talked with her, and she said they're getting him in a health and fitness program so that he can make better, healthy decisions.
Yeah.
And so as he loses weight, his confidence goes up, but he's a great tech.
Yeah.
So it's really on an individual basis.
Yeah, there's no one glove fits everyone.
Chief Employee Experience Officer.
CEO.
There you go. But Erica was there with me, and we were doing a 6-day training. I think I can't remember 3 or 6 days. It was a long time.
So that's a really good point. And to be honest, we've spoken about these things on the before on the show in various capacities with various guests. Some of them talk about how the difference between offering somebody perhaps getting that person to come work for you or them deciding to come and work for you is kind of ties into what you said then. Instead of offering them a job, you're offering them a career path. You're offering them like a road to success. It's not just, this is your hourly rate, go and do this, because the next guy can always bump you off the perch with an extra $5 an hour kind of thing.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say one more thing about that company, and then let's go. But they also set up a savings account for them. They taught their team to live off a percentage of what they made. Mm-hmm. And so they had a 401k, they had a health plan, they had all of that, but they really helped them in saving money. And there were guys that had literally thousands of dollars in their savings, and they said, this would have never happened if I had been working for X company or this other company. They were like, I would have spent it all.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a valuable lesson. I mean, this is something that, like, if I look back on my career, I mean, I was a plumber originally. I suppose I am technically still a plumber, but I don't do that anymore. But, I mean, no one. The problem, of course, when you get, and for all you listeners and viewers out there, is that listeners and viewers out there that have apprentices and you have young staff working for you, don't expect for a second that they understand money or they understand finance, they understand what to do with it or its value, because that was certainly my experience. Like, I didn't have anyone in my life that really understood money. My parents weren't very good with money. And so all of a sudden you're in a position as a teenager where all of your friends are at college and, they're all broke, and you're all of a sudden making money as an apprentice and you're a rock star. And of course, all you do is spend it. And so, I mean, having a plan like that at a company level would just be such an amazing and life-changing path.
But Matt, what did it cost that company to do that? But let's take out the fact that they did hire someone to do that. That's a larger company. But what did it really cost them just to say, what does success look like to you, and what do you want? There was a CSR that she said, I want to be an accountant. And they said, okay, we'll send you to community college. She became an accountant, not a CPA, but an accountant, and still works at that company. Why is that? Because they helped her achieve her dream, right?
Yeah.
And I agree. Technicians, I was a plumber for many years. Mechanically, we're really good with our hands and we can fix anything, right? They're amazing. But chances are they didn't go to Stanford and get an MBA. So they're not really disciplined sometimes about money. And so just simple ways, we set them up with there's a app in the States, maybe everywhere, it's called Acorns. And it basically takes the change.
Great,
so you spend $1.50. It takes that 50 cents and puts it in an interest-bearing account.
Yeah.
When I signed up on it, in 6-month time, I had almost $1,000. I didn't even know where it went. $1,000, and it took 6 months.
Yeah.
So now when I go buy gas, and let's say I fill up and it's like $20.01, because I want that 99 cents to go to that investment.
Yeah, they're amazing. I was on that as well when it was Acorns. It's called Raise now, isn't it? Hasn't it been changed to Raise? Where does that?
Not sure.
Yeah, it's a great program. I know, it's amazing. You don't notice the money. All of a sudden you look down, you're like, oh, there's thousands of dollars in this account. It's great.
What kind of life can they have now when they have investments? They have savings. They've got even investments for their kids' college. Now all of a sudden they have a plan in place and they have like an exit plan, so that they can retire at some time and reach the goals that they want.
Well, and Stephen, I want to go on too, because you were talking about career paths and talking about why, an employee experience could suck, is a lot of people think that they have to have these 1-year reviews. And most companies will only have reviews once a year. That's kind of crappy, because you're only thinking about what they did in the last 3 weeks and not what they did in the last 3 months or in the entire year. And
that's really a big problem.
Yeah, these one-on-ones, I know that it's an investment of time and an investment of your people, but at Power Selling Pros, every single one of our coaches has a meeting with somebody at least once a week or every other week with a different leader. And it's something that we've invested in, but part of it, because we're working remotely, people need to interact. They need to have that time with each other. And career paths, when you're having these one-on-ones and talking to people like, where do you want to be? What does success look like? A lot of times people think career paths is just a straight line up and down. But, if anybody is a rock climber, do you ever just go straight up the wall when you're a rock climber? You're just like going where you can go, right? And that's kind of what we can do in this industry with career paths, is help people move to other areas and different positions depending on their life, their family circumstances, their health, and help them move around to where they need to be. But the only way that we're going to get to know what people want, really what they want, is having frequent one-on-ones. And some of the things that I've seen is when people start to do these one-on-ones, they're really good at them for like maybe 2 or 3 months. And then they're like, we did that one-on-one thing. Yeah, we're done.
Didn't work.
And then stop doing them again. And you're not building trust with people that way. They thought that you were taking them seriously, and then now you're not anymore. You're too busy for them. That's how your employees would feel. Mm-hmm. And so it usually takes like 6 to 8 months to get used to this habit of frequently meeting with your team. Yeah, I know it takes time. And it's not that the owner has to meet with all 60 employees. There's this thing called delegation. Yeah. But everybody in a company, I honestly believe, should have frequent meetings with people, because you have to build that trust with them, and it doesn't come after the first month or two.
And I think on the flip side of that as well is, if you let things get too far out of check before you have those conversations, then it makes it extremely hard from a business point of view to reel it back into where you were headed. Otherwise, it's too far gone. Like, you can't have an annual review and go, oh, you screwed this up and it started in the beginning of the year,
Yeah. I ask owners a lot of time, when was the last time you took a team member out for lunch? Not to talk business, but just to talk about life. And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, try it and see what happens. And they're like, hey, Miss Erica, we'd love to let's go to lunch and let's just talk about life. Now I start to get to know about him or her, their kids, their family, their dreams, their wants, their desires. It's not a time for me to say, well, you're not doing this right, you're not doing this. It's a time for me to listen. Ask good questions. When you ask a question, always follow it up with, and what else? And what else? Mm-hmm. What I'm talking about doesn't cost a lot of money. It does take some time. Taking someone out to lunch really is a nice thing to do as well, but it also shows that you're vested. So our owner would take us out, every quarter. Now, we did have meetings regular with our managers, but we knew exactly where we were at. I knew exactly what I needed to make, exactly what I needed to sell. There was no ambiguous of, well, how'd I do this week? Or what about this? Or do I have a job? Or am I afraid they're going to fire me? Erica's a big statistic fan. She has one that says, is it 70% of employees leave or quit every day?
70% of employees quit their job every day.
They just never leave.
Right.
The problem is they keep coming back to get their paycheck, right? And
boom. So they mentally have checked out.
I've been in that situation.
Yeah, it's 70% of your employees are disengaged in what they do. And another problem that I see in the employee experience is back to this whole idea of common sense isn't so common anymore is, a lot of business owners who've grown up in the trades and have run their business and then taken it over from their parents or whatever it is, they think things just have to be the same way that they've always been. And so this idea that, I pay you to do your job, and that means I appreciate you to do your job. And they think that paying your employees a paycheck shows appreciation to them, but paying people their paycheck and appreciating them for what they do are two separate things. And so we have to find those little things, going out to lunch or, finding out what success looks like. So what are the things that people want instead of, here, I pay you a bonus for this, or I pay you your paycheck, but hey, this is what I'm going to show you. This is how I'm going to show you that I appreciate you. So it's two different things.
I love that.
Otherwise, Erica, it's just lip service. Right? It's like your boss going, hey, man, I appreciate you. And you're like, okay, you appreciate what? And if it's just lip service, then it falls on deaf ears. And I think, yeah, whatever. Right? And that's why we say the future belongs to companies who create the experience for their employees. So I got to tell one more statistic really quick that a friend of mine showed me the other day. And let me find this. It says 44% of an engaged works as opposed to a disengaged employee. They are 44% more productive than merely a satisfied one. But here's the interesting one. They are 125% more productive when they are an inspired employee. So again, engaged is great, but inspired is all about creating the purpose of why I come to work every day. I have a bracelet that used to say TGIF, thank God it's Friday. Now I'm like, thank God it's Monday. I love my job. Are you kidding? I can't wait to come to work every day. Of course, I get to talk to great people like you.
Oh, this is great. I suppose maybe we could just wrap this episode up quickly with maybe a few staple things that the viewers and listeners out there might want to consider adopting into their business. I mean, obviously, the takeaway for me so far has been ask your employees what's important to them, and structure some sort of plan and strategy to show them how they can get there through the business. I love the idea of the savings account. I think that's just such a useful and long-lasting, smart way to educate, especially young people who it's foreign to. I love the idea of what you were saying, Erica, as well, with paying people and appreciation being two different things. I think that's a big one because a lot of people perhaps overlook that. What are some other things you guys see some of your more successful clients implementing that reap rewards?
I think sometimes as an owner, we're quick to go, well, if I just give them an extra $1 an hour or $2 an hour or their hourly rate, that's not really the result they're looking for. They're looking for performance-based pay based off of their performance. And this doesn't resound with everyone. But again, I'm not saying you need to spend more money and pay them more. I'm saying set them up with products or incentives or things that they can do. Let's have a contest. Whoever gets the most reviews this week or this month, right? And whoever sells the most service agreements over this month on an individual basis plus a team. And you determine what is it going to look like. When we determined how many service agreements we had, and then we decided how many we wanted by the end of the year, we went out and bought a gigantic bass fishing boat. Okay. Now, sure, it's like 15 grand American dollars. But all of a sudden, the boat is sitting in the warehouse every day. They see the boat every day. What are they thinking about? I want that boat. What did it cost me? We recouped our money after about the first or second month like that. And we literally sold 4,000 agreements in a year. It was ridiculous, right? And so if they can see it, then they will all of us, and sometimes we get a big Yeti cooler or a big screen TV. So instead of us just saying, hey, we're going to give you this, we let them see what it looked like. And we brought in this big 80-inch TV and said, this could be yours. Do you want this? And so those are kind of fun things. It's not work. That doesn't work for everybody. And this is why I think you individually have to ask, what is it you want? Because what Erica wants is probably different from what I want. Erica?
And something, I'd be happy if we'll put my email address in the show notes, if that's okay. I actually have a list of 100 different questions to talk to your employees about. And anybody that emails me, I'd be happy to send them that PDF. When you're having these one-on-ones and trying to learn about them and building that trust and set them up on the career path and learning what success looks like, a lot of times if you're new to this and starting out with these conversations, you don't know what to say and you just kind of like talk about the weather and then there's no point to this meeting. And so this document that I'd be happy to share with everyone, Stephen and I had created it to really learn about people, learn about their working preferences, set expectations, learn where they want to go, and learning about their family, self-development. There's tons of different things to talk about. So if anyone struggles wondering what to talk about, well, I have a list for you and we'd be happy to give that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I can actually set that up in automation. So,
And also remember, Erica, we don't want to catch them off guard. So I don't want to say, hey, we're going to have a meeting and I need you to come in. And all of a sudden to say, so Erica, what is your 5-year plan? You're like, I don't know, maybe to breathe. How's that? So what you do?
Happy forever.
Say breathe or breed.
Either one.
They go hand in hand in my experience.
If you prepare them ahead of time and you give them and say, hey, we want to help you grow. Here's 5 simple questions. Take this home this week. Look at this, talk to your significant other, and really think about these things. And then let's go over them together and let's see how I can help you. I have found if you catch them off guard, that's really kind of uncool because I don't know what I want in 5 years unless I have some time to really think about it.
Yeah, and it's not really productive either.
No.
Exactly. Yeah, that preparation is key. And so to go along with that too, you could potentially, I would say the one-on-one meetings are important, but if you're not having weekly team meetings with everyone, that's definitely something that needs to get started. And so introducing this idea to your team and potentially just letting them know that this is going to be happening. Here are some of the questions we'll talk about, and to learn about each other, prepping everyone as a team and knowing that everybody is going to be doing this definitely sets you up for success.
I think one of the cool things we've recently implemented is, so we do like a daily 4 questions at 4 p.m, the 4x4 we call it, and we basically send out, until I've actually got this as an automated thing. It goes out as a chat in one of our bots to the whole team on our Google Chat channel. So we all use Google Chat instead of Slack. And essentially, it basically asks them questions about what they've done, what your goal was for today, what did you accomplish, what's tomorrow's main goal, do you need anything from anyone for this to happen? And then, how's your workload? Like, are you busy? Are you maxed out? Are you comfortable? Are you bored? And it's been great. And it's also sort of gamifies it a bit because you've got dashboards there and people can see like everyone filling in each other's daily goals, and it keeps people accountable. And it's been quite useful. And that time we always do the weekly meetings as well, of course. But in the weekly meetings we recap on a lot of this stuff, which is done. Oh, why did this not get done this week? I know you're working on this on Wednesday and Thursday. What happened? So. It's kind of fun. But anyway, that was great. So probably wrap this episode up, I'd say, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about more about the purpose, unless you had anything else to add.
This is great. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, for you listeners and viewers out there, that you have just joined us for part 1 of creating an amazing employee experience. That episode was why your employee experience probably sucks. And I've been joined here with Erica and Stephen from Power Selling Pros out of the US. That's powersellingpros.com if you want to go find more information. And of course, there's going to be some links in the show notes to some of the resources that Erica mentioned and some contact details. So don't be shy to head across there and get hold of that. We're going to come back for the next episode and we're going to be talking about what's your purpose. So stay tuned for that, folks. Thank you very much for joining us over there in the US, and we look forward to speaking to you in the next podcast. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.